Hello everyone, this is Margarita with CityGal Papeterie. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. In my previous video, I had talked about having worked on some projects on the side, sort of therapeutic projects that I like to work on when I'm finding that I need a little bit of art therapy. And this is one of the projects that I had been working on, and I wanted to share with you all. I attended this year's Sketchbook Revival series of 2021, and it's basically a series of a bunch of different sessions with different artists, and they just kind of go over different techniques and give you some assignments and prompts to work on in your journal. The first one was just sketching a shoe that was close to you. I had a slipper, and so I just sketched that really quick. For this session, it was 1 minute per writing material, per coloring tool. For the next one, we looked at cracks in an artistic way, so cracks in the sidewalk or the wall, and then putting those onto your sketch paper, and then blending the cracks to give it a nice dimensional look. For this one, you had to carve out some pretty basic shape stamps out of carving rubber, the speedball carving rubber, but I didn't have any. And then just fill your page with it. I didn't have any, so I just used some foam stamps that I had on hand. For this session, we had to do one-line drawings based on the prompts given by the instructor, and then we had to pick our favorite one and create a full sketch with color on another page, and that's what this one is. I chose the elephant, and I made it look a little like a stuffed animal. I just used some colored pencils for this. For this one, we had to use some watercolors and sketch an urban landscape. This was a French door, I think, with a mailbox and some potted plants in the front. It's my least favorite. I had a really hard time with it, but I did try my best, and I'm glad that I achieved what I achieved. For this one, we had to do some loose florals, and with using watercolor as well. I had covered my page in gesso to begin, just so I had a nice sturdy surface to start on. This one was a watercolor and ink owl sketch. This instructor was actually Tamara Laporte, who I really love. She has a channel on YouTube called Willowing. And for this one, we had to make a concertina. I didn't want to do any of the work outside of the sketchbook, so I just cut my page in half and did my little vases with the plants and flowers right inside of my sketchbook. And you were doing this using different media. So some are colored paper cut into a vase shape, and some are markers, some are crayons, some are colored pencils, etc. For this session, we just had to create a pocket that you can easily replicate in any journal that you are using. For this session, we had to choose a quote and then color that into our sketchbook with different coloring mediums. You could have used markers. I think that's what she recommended, but you could have used colored pencils or paint, etc. This session was creating meditative circles on your page. Hers looks, the original instructor's looks way different than mine, but while my paint was wet, I used a straw to branch out the paint a little bit. For this one, we were using natural resources, so I used a twig and some calligraphy ink to create these marks on my page. And then the instructor gave us an image to work with for inspiration, and that's what this came from. It was a dying flower on the ground with some like grass at the bottom, and that's my representation of it. For this one, I think this was sort of an instinctual sketch session where you're just moving your pen around on marker and just creating whatever comes out of your hands. Like, you're not really thinking of what you're making. You're just getting stuff on the paper. It was really interesting to kind of see where this went. It was a little strange, but I like the end result. For this one, we had to do some collaging and then sort of connect your collaged pieces using different markings with colored paint, with water paint. The instructor used a lot of rainbows. I did a rainbow and then some other markings and such. For this session, we were doing just a painting of some pears. The instructor did provide a photograph for us to replicate. This is just a practice page for the wreath, this wreath that I created. I used my Arteza water brush markers for this. And I really love how they came out. I added some little berries just for some detail, but really cute. The next two pages are just collaged. One page is supposed to represent daytime. One is supposed to represent nighttime. Both of mine look like nighttime, I think, but I'm a moon child, so I don't mind. I like that they both look like they are nighttime. For this one, we had to use a cardboard tube to create a mandala. And then I used my markers again to color in the shapes, and then some white gel pens to create some little doodles inside of some of the colors. For this one, we had to create a stenciled like dimensional background. So I used some gesso with a stencil, and then some paint pens and some watercolor sprays to create the background. This was sort of a loosening exercise. The instructor gave you some prompts and then you just followed whatever was on the prompt without really thinking much about it. So she'd say draw some circles, and you did that. And then I drew this just following that exercise just to kind of see what I could make. For this session, we had to create these swatches. They're like faux fabric swatches. And then you were supposed to create little characters using the swatches for their clothing, but I didn't get that far. For this session, we had to create some little blobs. And then from the blobs, you can make some characters using other colors. I used all paint pens for this, and that was a fun exercise. For this one, we were using a crayon to make like a resist technique. I have to kind of, actually I should be following this up with watercolor, but I drew what was in front of me was my little dinner table stand with my son's toys and his headphones, his sketchbook, and his juice box. I might come back and watercolor that. I'm not sure. And then that was it. These following pages are just play pages. They're just me, playing around with different things. I like that one lined face that I made previously, and so I just made a couple more in my journal here. Just playing around with some of my coloring materials. And then I made these just for fun using some gel pens, which I never ever use. Anyway, so that's that. I hope you enjoyed that. Just kind of showing you guys what I've been up to since I haven't been doing a whole lot of videoing lately, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.